Good afternoon, everybody. I said good afternoon, everybody. How are you guys feeling? A little, okay, so you may know I'm a news journalist here in South Florida. I've been working for ABC, NBC, NPR for a while, but one thing I've always kind of wanted to be is a cheerleader, okay? So you guys are gonna help me out. After this lunch, we need you guys to get going. When I say day, you say one. Okay, you guys got that? Day.
R.
Day.
R.
When I say H, you say R. H.
R.
H.
R.
Day.
R.
H.
R.
Day.
R.
Day. I almost got you. Well, it is my honor to be here today with so many amazing folks, so many leaders in our workplaces. This is such an important discussion, and I am honored to be hosting it. Again, my name is Constance Jones. I am the morning news anchor at NBC6 and Peacock Streaming here in South Florida. Miami is my home, South Florida is my home, so it is an honor to be a part of these kind of discussions where we get to build our community in our workplaces. So this is exciting, this is important, but I want to start this discussion off by speaking about someone that you might have heard of, Richard Branson. Do you guys know him? Probably. He's a super well-known entrepreneur, investor, philanthropist, and he said a quote that I think is really connects to what we're talking about today. He says, take care of your employees and they'll take care of your business. It's as simple as that. And that's what we're doing today. We're talking about well-being. We're talking about the importance of making our workplace a place that people want to go to every day. So we're excited to have an amazing group of panelists, each one representing different industries. They're going to be dropping some gems, some jewels on us today, right? So I want to make sure that each panelist gets a few moments. If you could, please introduce yourselves, tell us what company that you're with, and also personally, how you put wellness in your own life. And we'll start with you, Zach.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for coming today. I'm Zach Kovat. I'm the Director of People Operations and Talent at ezCater. We're the #1 food tech marketplace in the US, connecting thousands of eaters with 100,000 restaurants and caterers nationwide. I focus on my own well-being a few different ways. I think being really intentional with breaks, cooking lunch, stretching, yoga, going on a walk. I work primarily remote from my house, so it's a little bit easier to blend my life and work together. But again, just being intentional and being thoughtful that you're not just working all the time, but actually just taking a moment to pause, reflect, and refresh yourself so you can bring your best self to work is really important.
Hi there, Jeff Williams. I run a company called Aptia. We provide the people, process, and technology to power your employee benefit systems and to give your people peace of mind. How do I do well-being? Well, I'm in an abusive relationship with my Apple Watch. So when I am not behaving and when I am not driving activity, it reminds me to be better. And I also managed to find this week the intersection of business and pleasure, because while I'm from the Northeast, my daughter's a sophomore at the U. Oh. So good to be in Miami.
Great. Hi, I'm Kathleen Procario. I lead HR for Bacardi North America here in the Miami area out of Coral Gables. I'm actually a single mom, and so for me, I do just a real simple check-in every Sunday, and I am planning everything out for my family, for myself. Of course, there are moments where I am overwhelmed, and therefore I have to think about what is it that I need in my life. Do I need more focus time during the day? Do I need more space and joy? So is that with one-on-ones with employees, or is it even just planning a trip for myself? So that's kind of how I integrate it.
Good afternoon, BJ Warren. I work for Bayer, leading a team around our HR service delivery experience for nearly 100,000 employees around the globe. Most known brands probably are things like Aspirin, Aleve, Alka-Seltzer, and many more that you may use daily. For me, I like to visit at least once a week and encourage my team members to as well, our House of Health, which is mini learning nuggets or activities that you can do 5 minutes to 30 minutes a day around mental, physical, or financial health. And being based here in Miami, it tends to be something outdoors for me.
Fernando, Casadevall, local here to the Miami area. I work for a group called World Connect Corporation. We do energy management. We put fuel in anything that moves. We're Fortune 100 and do about $50 billion in revenue a year. And what I've found during my career is finding that time to kind of recharge yourself. And for me, now that I commute to work versus taking a bus, so I drive in, it's finding that time on the way in or on the way home to be on the radio, podcasts that I like to listen to. Just find time where there's nobody around you to just kind of do some things that you like to enjoy.
All right, let's give our panelists a round of applause. All right, so we want to start things off with a little drink. We're talking about Bacardi, right? You guys know the drink? Come on, you guys know it. So we are very lucky to have Kathleen here. And Kathleen, we're going to start with you. Of course, we know Bacardi is associated with this part of the country, right? South Florida, Latin America, the Caribbean. And your company is also known for being a great place for women to work and to move ahead. So what inspires that culture, and how does that translate to everyday working conditions at your company?
Sure. So Bacardi is a family-owned business, started in 1862. And so as part of that, we have a very strong sense of community and belonging. We have in our culture, in our systems, we have something called the 3 Fs, which are our fearless, family, and founders mentality. And it's ingrained in everything that we do. So it's very rewarding to be working at Bacardi. It's a place where we're encouraged to be ourselves and really be authentic in our work. The work that we do in terms of leadership development is very focused on personalized modules and future pipelining our leaders from within the company. And as part of that, our succession planning, we look at everyone, we look for top talent, and then we also create tenure development plans, which are specifically curated for everyone to exactly what they need to do to get to the next place. As part of that, we do take a lens of women in leadership, and in some cases, we look to accelerate women to ensure that we have representation. So I think overall, what makes Bacardi such a great place and what differentiates us is that that space that we create for being ourselves, and it translates into just everyone genuinely appreciating who they work with. So we've been nominated most years for Great Place to Work, and most recently for Forbes Great Place to Work for Women.
Okay.
For 3 years.
Great.
Thank you.
And Jeff, if you'd like to continue the conversation about how your workplace is supporting women and moving up in the workplace.
Yeah, I think for us, and particularly what we're seeing in our client base, is the most enlightened employers are trying to figure out what is the best way to serve the females in their population. 10% of the US workforce now is women of menopausal age. 60% of the women in the workforce are caregivers. And I think we'd all agree that maternity benefits in the US just lag behind other countries around the world. So our position with our customers and working with your brokers is to really determine what your population looks like and what they want. And I think the best ways to do that are to ask them. So ask your females through employee engagement surveys, through focus groups, through BRGs, what matters the most to you and what benefit programs could we provide to support you the best? And I think also having the courage to do that and frame it in scarcity. For example, you could have more menopausal, you could have more caregiving, you could have more maternity. Help us decide what the best thing is. I think that we are seeing an emerging trend to more female-focused benefits. I think it's a healthy trend in the workplace, and I think there's a lot of tools available to employers to really go out and figure out what's going to give you the most bang for your buck when your CFO is kind of staring at you and saying, we only have this many dollars, how do we take care of our people in the best way?
Very important. All right, Jeff, thank you. So, of course, several of our speakers here represent a variety of industries. Of course, we heard from Bacardi, but we've got from offices, from the tarmacs to factories. So, Fernando, we're going to start with you and talk to you about this topic. Can you tell us how your company stays connected to workers in many diverse roles, especially when it comes to their well-being?
Yes, and we have a population that spans corporate roles to a large driver depot for energy distribution. And what we figured out is local affinity groups helps us. So in different countries that we operate in, being able to connect our employees through local leaders that they appoint for the groups, and then being able to set up chats with them to be able to have communication for us to get messages out. That's very important for that group that isn't on email all the time. For our corporate employees, we try to take a little bit of a different approach, right? We try to do a lot more in the workplace events and spending time together. So we're all living through the reality of getting into a more flexible work environment. So I think what we've learned over the last 3 years from a lot of leaders is they want people in the office, but they recognize people don't have to be in the office to get work. So what are those experiences that you create in the workplace to want to get people back in? And it's not lunches or free food, because for a lot of the folks, they have that around them. So what makes them want to go into the office? It's about creating those experiences where they know they can collaborate with their counterparts and not be on Zoom calls where in the office. That's been the most important and impactful for us.
So creating those opportunities where people can be seen and maybe advancement as well.
Seeing and working with each other and kind of sprinkling in some events and then mix it up, right? You do something for a couple of months, change it up because people just get bored of it, right? So you got to always be trying to change things around that and maybe go seasonal, do things that are important. It's not one size fits all for a company, because what's important for us here in Miami is different for our employees in Singapore than it is in the UK, right? You have to understand how people commute to work. How far they have to commute, what do they like to do when they're in the offices, how long they like to stay at work, and it's different in every city in the world.
BJ, would you like to echo in your response?
Absolutely. So we serve a wide variety of employees, from those that are out in fields, actual corn fields or soy fields, to production facilities, manufacturing. It could be on our pharmaceuticals division, those cancer-saving drugs, to those within consumer health, of those over-counter I mentioned. And for us, what we try to do is we set a frame. Those things that we say as a company we believe every employee should have access to. So, simple example, our global volunteering program. We believe that no matter in what country you are in, every employee should have access and time to volunteer within their local communities, either through choice that they have or something that's even maybe they want to tack on to with the company. But because everyone works in different locations, then we allow those locations to decide how they may enact that. In the US, since many of you support the US area, we've said originally we'll give 2 volunteer days for every employee and they can use it how they choose. But then our production facilities came back and said, okay, but what about those working on a shift that may be 12, 14, 16 hours? Does that equate the same? And so we said, it's up to you at that location to determine what works best for you and your employees. But as a company, we have committed that this is something that is important for us.
Volunteer days, that's pretty cool. I've never heard of that before. Have you guys heard of that? Maybe? Yes? No? Yes? Some folks? Okay. Zach, how about your company?
We do Together Weeks. So just to frame it, ezCater, we're roughly about 1,000 employees. We're remote hybrid, primarily remote. Since COVID, that was a big shift, just working at ezCater in office every day before COVID, and then realizing that we could go remote and we could start spanning the nation. I think we're employees in about 42 states now. So we've never done a forced return to office. We have the luxury as a tech company of not needing folks to be on site and take advantage of that. But with these Together Weeks that I mentioned, the first full week of every month, we give opportunities our employees the ability to travel into the office and come together. I think it's really important to have that connective fabric while we're over Zoom or over Slack, interacting all the time, but to actually see each other in person, whether it be team kickoffs and planning or more social time, whatever it may be. We can expense that. People can travel in. We have probably about 1/3 of the company is close to our headquarters in Boston. The rest of them are spread out. So that's really important for us. We also do summer sweetness, which we call it that. It's more of a summer kickoff and more of a little bit of a party, nice chance to reflect on the first half of the year and get together, look at the back half of the year, and just actually have a little bit of time just to celebrate and see each other in person.
Jeff, Kathleen, any comments? Nope, okay. All right, well, at this point, companies have become more aware, more attuned to the employee experience, which is about understanding all the touch points that our workers have at the company. So BJ, that's your specialty. Can you tell us how your company is trying to make every worker's encounter with HR a little bit more satisfying?
A little more satisfying. So it was interesting in the opening remarks from Nick today, he mentioned, is AI going to take my job in HR? And because I have the responsibility around our service delivery experience, we absolutely need to leverage technology in order to become more efficient. But for us, it's about looking at what are those moments that really matter for employees, where the interactions that they have with HR or the conversations that they have with people leaders are those about very meaningful things. So even in the introduction about if you lose a family member or maybe you're bringing someone new into your life, that's the conversation you're having and talking about those, not where do I find my paycheck or how do I enter my performance goals. And so we really focus heavily on first saying, what are those moments that matter? How do we ensure that you have meaningful conversations and time for that? And the rest, let's automate or let's get rid of it altogether.
Kathleen?
Yeah, interesting to hear what you've just shared, because unplanned. Bacardi is more than making incredible spirits, but for us, it's about making moments matter. And so just last week, actually, last Thursday, we had a Thanksgiving celebration. And as part of that, it was a Doers sponsored, right? We're more than just rum, everybody. It was a Doers sponsored event. And we opened up with the regional president who was giving a bit of a business update, who then shared his gratitude for the performance results. But then also our Doers team presented their new media campaign it was Here's to the Story, which is about how it's about celebrating gatherings together and those shared experiences. So you can hear how our purpose of celebrating moments that matter comes all the way through all of the activities that we do. And so we try to keep everything integrated.
Does anyone else like to echo in their HR experiences?
Yeah, I'll add to BJ's. I think the key with my team is I try to force is, hey, don't make those opportunities with HR just be about something that's reactive or that's most people think, oh, HR's coming, right? So try to be try to be at the forefront of looking at that life cycle, the onboarding process. We spend a lot of time on annual talent reviews, doing talent org charts, 9 boxes, and then just dropping those conversations deep down with the managers. So there's a feeling among the HR community and the commercial groups that we're working together and that we're engaging through annual conversation and development of people versus trying to solve a problem that's come up. And if you get that balance right, people start to look at HR more as a group that we can come to and have conversations, and some then turn into confidential conversations, things that you can head off, right? Somebody's having a tough time because something's going on. There's some mental well-being issues that you're trying to address, right? Most of the time in the past, folks don't want to come to HR because they feel there's going to be some punishable event that happens. And if you can get away from that, you can really increase the bond between the employees and the company and also the productivity that you're going to get out of those moments.
It's, Fernando, when you said that, when you think of HR, there is a negative connotation for an employee.
Yes.
Like, oh, I'm going to call HR on you. How do we work to make a more positive interaction? I think that was a really good point you made, making sure that we're not reactive, that we're building these relationships in the front end.
Can I give you some good news?
Yes.
The good news in our research is that HR is probably more trusted than any other department in the company. So I think there's a real opportunity for HR to be there for the culture, to be custodians of the culture, and to hold leaders accountable to drive the guiding principles that will fuel the culture. I run across organizations all the time who are desperate for their leaders to be as big as their greatest hopes and as big as their greatest fears. And I think there's a real place for HR to hold business leaders in high esteem, but also accountable for what the organization is in the world.
Yeah, and that's an important point, Jeff, because it's okay for us in the HR human capital space to push back when management says, hey, HR is responsible for the culture. No, we're all responsible for the culture, and you as the leaders, the CEO, the CFO, have a big part to play in that. I'd rather be in the background and have those folks be the ones that are leading the values and the culture. If they're pushing it onto HR, it's okay for us to say, no, that's not how it works, right? You need to take ownership of this.
Okay. Well, it's our favorite time of year. You know what it is? Somebody?
I do.
What?
Open enrollment.
Open enrollment! Yay! But it can be very confusing for employees, right? And it can be very taxing on HR staff members, especially with these economic times. In my company, for example, NBC Universal, we now have a brand new company for our insurance, and we're losing our doctors and our dentists, and so everyone's complaining and going straight to HR to say, what's going on here? So I'm sure this is something that all of our panelists can echo, but let's start with Jeff first about open enrollment season. How do we navigate through this time?
Yeah, and maybe I'll start again with a bit of context. So question for you, how much time did you spend planning your last vacation?
Months. A long time, yes, a long time.
How long did you plan your open enrollment?
You're putting me on the spot, okay? Like maybe an hour or two.
But I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but that's our experience.
Yeah.
You know, the data says 5 hours to plan a vacation and 29 minutes to do your benefit enrollment.
Yeah.
You know, it's these are really important choices. And our people are somewhere between stressed out and freaked out about the state of their pocketbook. 73% of them don't believe they can afford a medical emergency. Half of them can't come up with $500 in an emergency. And 61% don't think their benefits are giving them what they need to have the peace of mind to be productive at work. So we're in that environment. So how do we help our employees through this time of year? Again, I think that there are, I think you got to come back to who you are as a company, and sorry to keep beating this point, but there's no amount of PowerPoint that can overcome a 2.5% merit increase and a 10% health premium increase. Like, you just can't talk your way through that and still say people are our greatest asset and people matter the most, right? It's just not going to work. So what I would suggest, though, the practical thing I would do is really invest in trying to make your benefit programs as simple and as consumable as you possibly can. What your people, I believe, really want is the confidence to make the best available choices that they can for them and their family. So you probably can't over communicate, and you have to go at it in multiple ways. You probably have to go at it through in-person sessions. Of course, you got to do it through email. Providing expert guidance, benefit guidance, doing benefit fairs. Like, I would over-index on trying to get your people involved in the decisions that they have to make, and to make sure that they know how to get the real help they need when they're faced with difficult choices. I think if you went up and asked people on your floor, hey, can you tell me about whether or not you want to spend your next dollar on a 401k, a spending account, mortgage pay down, or student loan repayment, they just don't know what to do there, and they really, really need our help. And companies like ours and your brokers can really help you try and navigate that really tough time of year where people are just, oh, here it comes. There's my 6% increase, click, and then they forget about it till they need it.
Fernando, would you like to add on?
Yes, two things, right? There's active enrollment and passive enrollment. So understand which one you're going through. Passive enrollment, be very upfront in the communication, but highlight the things that you need people to make sure they're going to. When you have active enrollment, then make sure you have fairs planned. Make sure you have open hours to be able to have those conversations. What we found over the last couple of years that AI has really helped make a steep leap in getting people more personalized assistance through virtual assistants. And we've used one now, and every year we see an uptick in the number of people that use a virtual assistant to be able to get help, right? And it's helpful because as more people get comfortable with technology, they're doing more self-service, so we're a Workday shop, and we're able to kind of make that all seamless in there. It just gets people the ability to get more comfortable and recognize, hey, I really do have to do something, whether it's passive or active. But definitely if it's active, we're going to put a lot more effort into the communication and the process for them.
All right, would anyone else like to echo in on open enrollment?
Yeah, I would just say education and literacy are huge for us. Our benefits team's incredible. Shout out to Casey and Kim, who make themselves super available, run really good QA sessions, send out recordings afterwards, add more and more to our intranet around it. We've seen just really, really impressive buy-in relative to market, where we have 90% usage rates with our medical benefits from our employees, which speak to their ability to understand them and to buy into it. We brought in fertility benefits using Carrot this year. We got to 11%. buy-in in the first year. I think the benchmark's 2 to 3%, and with Modern Health, our mental health benefit, we saw 42% adoption in the first year. I think 20 to 30 is the typical range. So the numbers are showing that our people are understanding and buying into it, and we're just trying to take a very iterative approach to understand what our people want and need and keep evolving our benefits as we adapt as a company.
The one thing I would add is beyond the annual enrollment period is how are you giving those touch points to employees throughout the year so that they understand what are all those ancillary benefits or what's within their total rewards package. Where we've seen a lot of success is partnering with our ERGs or business resource groups, whatever you may call them within your DE&I programs, to say, help us understand what are those that matter most to your members or to those employees, and how do we help show that these are what we have, whether it's women in the workplace or our LGBT+Q benefit guide. All of those things are really important to have that maybe individual touch and reminders that there's more going on beyond just the annual enrollment happening once a year.
All right, from open enrollment, we're going to talk about my favorite subject, food, and the power of food in the workplace. I'm talking about companies using food to try to get employees back, to boost morale in the workplace, right? How many of you guys have tried that once or twice? We all have, right? Whether it be just a potluck or full catering, the Christmas party, does that really help our employees? Does this really make a big difference? So I want to speak to the expert, Zach, about this, about does food really pay dividends when it comes to employees and how they feel about their workplace?
So I would say the data says yes. From our lunch rush report last year, I think we surveyed 5,000 US office workers. 98% of them said that they're more productive when they actually take a lunch break. Any guesses on what percent of them actually take a lunch break out of those? 38%.
Wow.
So lunch we see as the most inclusive perk. You know, I mentioned the stats around fertility benefits, mental health benefits, even medical insurance. Just about everybody takes you up on food at work. It matters. And I don't want to plug ezCater too much, but we make it a lot easier by linking up all of those eaters with 100,000 restaurants and caterers across the US. So
nice little plug.
yeah, it can move the needle objectively.
Yeah. Any other comments on food in the workplace?
So what I would say is, again, it's like here in Miami, what I found with food is because most people are driving to work, it's not something that gets them to the office because they have that by them. But if you take some of our warehouses where we have lots of people and they're remote, food is definitely important, right? It's how people get around a canteen and have conversations. You're able to get them. If you're some of our locations that are in cold weather where people don't want to get in the car, others I find where you try to use food as a way to get folks into the office without creating those special moments, it wears off really fast. So you got to balance it out, and you got to look at what's the expense. Am I really getting a return back for that? And don't feel bad or that you can't adjust to your decision on that.
And speaking about being from South Florida, so I work at NBC Universal, which is obviously NBC, but also Telemundo. So two different worlds in a sense. So when we cater breakfast, there's a group of us that like Chick-fil-A, and there's a group of us that like empanadas and croquetas. And so making sure that who's from South Florida? Come on. Cafecito, right? Where do we have some out there? Somebody. And so being aware of what, your employees even want, right? Like what is it would make people happy? Because some people, for me, I like it all, okay? I eat anything if it's free. But some people will pass up Chick-fil-A and would prefer something else, maybe something that makes them feel like, oh, you appreciate me, you appreciate my culture. This is what I would prefer eating for breakfast versus this, or for lunch, or for whatever the event is. Mm-hmm. So any other touch points on food?
I think Bacardi's always made it a cultural moment. So there's a history in it that back in Cuba, when we had first started, that we had incorporated it as the one daily meal that everybody would get. And so there's a long history of us actually celebrating lunch together. I was telling everybody back in the green room that we're moving offices, and the number one, this is a surprise, no HR professional in the room, the number one FAQ, will there be lunch? Like over and over again. And so I really hear how, if you tie it to the cultural moment, that's how you really engage folks.
Yeah, I don't think it's a silver bullet on its own. I think you need a lot more as a business to engage your employees, but I really do think it does help move the needle.
And how was the food today, you guys? Great, right? Okay. Let's talk about employee well-being and the community around it. So how are companies helping managers to be sure to make time for meaningful conversations with their workers, whether that be in-office check-ins, whether it's online or some kind of feedback session? How do we create those special moments, whether you're working from home or you're in the office? And let's start first with Fernando on that one.
Yeah, listen, I find that most people are risk averse, right? Most managers, most human beings want to avoid conflict. So the way we've built it in is around having annual checkpoints that are built in for managers and employees to be able to have those conversations. The annual performance process, goal setting, review of goals, mid-year reviews, and then try to push that as much so it's scheduled so employees don't feel that when I'm getting pinged by my manager to sit down and have a conversation that I've done something wrong, right? If everybody feels they're going through the process that they're going through an experience, it just helps that process get a little bit more comfortable. I still struggle, and this is something that we'll have to deal with, right? In an organization, good managers really find the time to have those conversations with their employees. Leaders that are not as good struggle, and as HR professionals, we have to know who those good leaders are, and we have to know those that need more help from us to remind them to get those things done. Because otherwise, even though you've gone through, everybody signed up for your annual steps, if you don't have that awareness, you'll find that certain groups of folks, even within the same department or within the same division, aren't being managed the same way.
BJ, do you have something to add to that?
Yeah, for us, it's taking care of the basics first, or getting rid of those things that people leaders shouldn't have to do anymore. A year ago, we started a transformation where we said we were going to move from an average span of control for people leaders from 5 to 10 to an average span of coaching of 15 to 30. Upwards, we have some 100. And so we mapped out what are all those things that HR is asking people leaders to do on behalf of their employees or so that they can get something done. And the total touch points was over 90 in a year. And we're now quickly chiseling away at all of those and saying, are they absolutely necessary? How do we get rid of them? Things that aren't going away are exactly the same as you. We have an annual HR calendar and we've said these are the minimum touch points we expect you to have with your employees and make time for those conversations. But what we commit to on the HR side is eliminating all of that other burden so that you have the time for those meaningful conversations.
And to piggyback on that is, take a look at our calendar and make sure that it doesn't conflict with major business events, whether it's sales kickoffs or board meetings, right? Try to work your schedule around to make sure that you aren't asking people to do multiple things that they then have to prioritize one over the other.
I'd just maybe add, hold ourselves to a standard of no surprises. Performance review season is coming up. I always view it to be a failure of the leader if an employee is surprised in that review. There should be no surprises. It should be a natural extension of an ongoing conversation. And if there's new information happening in that meeting, we're probably missing the boat a little bit.
Totally agree.
To that point of it being an ongoing conversation, we've actually taken our annual reviews to something that's more regular, and we call it a let's talk, so that it's an ongoing conversation. And in terms of well-being, we've actually embedded into the conversation, we've recommended that you open with, how are you? Like, no, really, how is your weather? Or are you surviving or thriving? And really getting that up front. Because really everybody brings their whole self to work. And if you don't know where your person is, then you don't know where they can go with their work. So I think more of that consistency of conversation helps.
Yeah, and just developing managers. I think they have a force multiplier effect. So there's disproportionate ROI when you apply learning and development efforts to managers and making them be comfortable and confident having those quality conversations with their employees.
All right, so we're running a little tight on time, so I really want to get this last question out there. It's a lightning round. So you guys ready?
Yep.
I think you are. You guys are all professional. In a few words, give us some advice on promoting a culture of well-being in the workplace. And we'll start with Jeff.
Make your leaders take time off. So they're not well and they're killing themselves to make your company great. Make them take time off, because not only are they going to do better, but the employees that you keep saying are 2 years away from being 2 years away, like gives them a chance to step in and lead on behalf of those leaders, not just notionally, but really making quality decisions while those leaders are off. Make the leaders take the time, make the people step up and get some real experience as part of your succession plan.
BJ.
Role model. Don't just tell your employees or your colleagues to do something or take advantage of a benefit. Actually do it yourself. Make sure that they know you're doing it and make it as visible as possible that even people externally know that you're taking advantage of that benefit.
Zach.
Pause, reflect, and recognize. It's all right to take a beat. You have to take breaks. You have to, my old boss used to talk about going slow so we can actually go fast. Recognition goes a long way, and to what they just mentioned, modeling good behavior at the leadership level really, really goes a long way.
Okay. I would say ask. Ask your people what they want. Some of our best ideas have come from our people, whether that's a lunch and learn, or we've even had the bowls that make noise, like the mindfulness. Everybody comes up with great ideas, and it creates a sense of community.
Fernando.
Hey, work to create social moments in the workplace, not just getting people together for work topics, but for social conversations is good.
All right, great discussion, wasn't it? I would say so. Let's give our amazing panelists a round of applause. Thank you all for your time today. Thank you so much. And any final thoughts? Looks like someone was ready to say something. No?
No.
Day!
One.
Day!
One.
H!
R.
H!
R.
Thank you guys so much. Have a great day.